Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on Listen Easy English today. I hope you find a cozy spot where you can relax and enjoy this story. Take a deep breath, and let's begin our exciting journey together. Imagine a peaceful forest where the trees are tall and quiet, and the air feels cool and calm. In this beautiful forest, a young man sits alone under a magnificent apple tree. He is not doing anything particularly special. He is just sitting there, lost in thought. But in this quiet moment, something changes, not just for him, but for all of us, for the entire world. This is the incredible story of Isaac Newton, a brilliant man who looked at a falling apple and asked a question that no one had ever asked before. He spent his life listening to the universe, and in return, the universe answered him in surprising ways. Before we dive deeper into this fascinating story, if this is your first time here at Listen Easy English, I want to extend a warm welcome to you. This channel is a special place where you can learn English through calm and beautiful stories. These are real stories, true stories, stories that resonate with you and stay with you long after you've heard them. So, take a comfortable breath, relax, and let the journey begin. The year was 1642, and the place was a small village called Woolsthorpe, located in the picturesque English countryside. At that time, the world was very different from what we know today. There were no computers, no electric lights, and no cars to speed around in. People worked hard on farms, looked up at the vast sky, and wondered about the mysteries of the universe. They asked many questions about nature and existence, but they did not always have answers for those questions. On a cold winter day, a baby boy was born into this world, and his name was Isaac Newton. Unfortunately, Isaac did not arrive in the world in a strong or healthy way. He was very small, so small, in fact, that the people around him were unsure if he would survive. His mother later said that he was tiny enough to fit inside a large cup. He came into the world quietly, gently, like a soft whisper. Despite his small size and delicate nature, this child would one day change how every human being understood the universe. There is something truly beautiful about that. The greatest minds often begin their journeys in the most unexpected ways. Isaac's father had already died before he was born, which meant that from his very first day, life was not easy for this little boy. He faced many challenges right from the start, but even in those early hard moments, something deep inside him was already waiting. Something inside him was already listening, eager to learn and discover. The question is, what was it that he heard? Isaac Newton grew up in a quiet home with his grandmother. When he was just 3 years old, his mother left to marry another man. She moved away, and Isaac stayed behind, feeling abandoned and alone. This experience was very painful for him and left a mark on him that would last for many years. Growing up, Isaac often felt lonely. He did not have many friends, and he was not the kind of boy who played loudly or laughed in big groups. Instead, he was quiet and preferred to be alone. He loved to think deeply about things, while other children ran and shouted outside, engaging in games and laughter. Isaac sat in corners, making small things with his hands. He built little models of windmills, crafted paper kites, and studied how water moved and how shadows fell across the ground. He was always watching, always wondering, and always exploring the world around him. When he went to school, he was not always the best student. In fact, for a while, his teachers did not notice anything special about him because he was so quiet and reserved. He kept to himself and did not attract much attention, but inside his mind, something truly extraordinary was growing. He asked questions that other people did not think to ask. He looked at ordinary things and saw something deeper inside them. something that sparked his curiosity. Perhaps the most interesting thing about young Isaac is that he never stopped being curious. Even when life was hard, even when he felt alone and isolated, he kept asking questions, kept thinking, and kept discovering new ideas. His quiet curiosity and gentle wonder would one day become the most powerful tool the world had ever seen, allowing him to unlock the secrets of the universe. When Isaac Newton was a young man, he had the opportunity to study at Cambridge University in England. Cambridge was one of the most important places for learning in the entire world at that time, and Isaac arrived there as a serious and dedicated student, ready to listen and learn from the great minds around him. At Cambridge, Isaac discovered a world that felt made for him, a world of mathematics, astronomy, and natural philosophy, which is what science was called back then. He eagerly read books by great thinkers like Galileo and Descartes, absorbing their ideas and insights. He studied the stars, the movements of the planets, and the laws that govern the universe. He spent long hours in his small room, filling pages with numbers, diagrams, and ideas. For the first time in his life, Isaac felt like he truly belonged somewhere, immersed in a community of learning. But then, something unexpected and tragic happened. A terrible illness, known as the Great Plague, began to spread across England, causing fear and chaos. Cambridge University had to close its doors, and students and teachers were forced to leave the city to stay safe from the disease. For most students, this felt like a terrible interruption in their education, a sudden pause in their learning, a door that had been abruptly closed. However, for Isaac Newton, this moment became something entirely different. Instead of seeing it as an obstacle, he embraced the opportunity to go home to Woolsthorpe, to the quiet countryside where he had grown up. And there, far from the bustling city, far from his professors and books, something remarkable began to unfold. In that stillness, in that small and simple place, Isaac began to think more deeply than he had ever thought before. The questions he asked during those quiet months would change the course of human history forever. Isaac Newton spent almost 2 years at his home in Woolsthorpe, while the plague kept the university closed. These 2 years, from 1665 to 1667, are now known as some of the most extraordinary years in the history of science. During this time, Isaac found himself alone. He had no professors to guide him, no classmates to discuss ideas with, and no distractions from the outside world. He had only his own mind and the natural world around him. In that deep solitude, he made discoveries that no one had ever made before, discoveries that would lay the foundation for modern science. Isaac began to study light in great detail. Using a simple glass prism, he discovered that white light is not just one color. It is made up of many colors combined. These colors include red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. When light passes through a prism, it spreads apart and reveals its hidden colors. This groundbreaking discovery surprised the scientific community and changed how people understood light and color. But Isaac did not stop there. He also began working on a new kind of mathematics, a method for understanding how things change and move. He called it the method of fluxions. Today, we call it calculus, and it became one of the most important tools in all of mathematics. This new way of thinking about change allowed scientists and mathematicians to solve complex problems and understand the world in a more precise way. Then, perhaps most famously, Isaac turned his attention to the sky. He watched how objects moved and thought deeply about the moon, the planets, and why things fall to the ground. Slowly and carefully, he began to put together an idea so expansive, so clear, and so true that it had been waiting for centuries for someone brave enough to find it. This idea was called gravity. There is a story that almost everyone in the world has heard, and it is a crucial part of Isaac Newton's legacy. It is the story of Isaac Newton and the apple. One sunny afternoon, Isaac was sitting in the garden near his home in Woolsthorpe. The air was still, and the trees were calm, creating a peaceful atmosphere. Then, from a branch above him, an apple fell. It fell down, as all apples do, straight toward the ground. Most people in the world have seen apples fall, but most have never thought deeply about it. But Isaac was not like most people. He looked at that falling apple and asked a profound question. Why did it fall down and not up? Why not sideways? Why does it always fall toward the earth? He knew the answer was not simple. Something was pulling the apple, something invisible and powerful. If something was pulling the apple toward the earth, then maybe, just maybe, that same force was also pulling the moon, pulling the planets, and holding everything in the universe together in its place. This was the beginning of his theory of gravity, the idea that every object in the universe pulls on every other object. The same force that brings an apple to the ground also keeps the moon moving around the earth, and the earth moving around the sun. It was a beautiful idea, simple, yet enormous at the same time. Isaac spent many more years writing, calculating, and proving this idea through experiments and observations. And when he finally shared it with the world, everything changed forever. When the plague ended, Isaac returned to Cambridge University. He was a changed man. Those quiet months at home had given him a depth of thinking that few people in the world could match. He returned, not as a simple student, but as a thinker, already full of revolutionary ideas. He became a professor at Cambridge when he was only 26 years old, a rare and extraordinary achievement for someone so young. As a professor, Isaac continued his groundbreaking work. He built the first reflecting telescope, a new kind of telescope that used mirrors instead of glass lenses to see the stars more clearly. This invention marked another important step forward in the field of astronomy. Astronomers across Europe were amazed by his work, and his reputation began to grow. Scientists and mathematicians from many countries wanted to know more about this quiet, serious man from England. However, Isaac was still not ready to share all of his ideas with the world. He was cautious in his approach and preferred to think slowly and carefully. He did not want to publish his discoveries until he was absolutely certain that they were correct. For many years, he kept his greatest work to himself, filling notebooks with his thoughts, making detailed calculations, and refining every detail meticulously. Then, in 1687, after years of quiet preparation, he finally published a book that would become one of the most important books ever written in the history of human knowledge. It was called Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica, or simply the Principia. Inside this groundbreaking book were the laws of motion and the theory of universal gravitation, ideas that were simple, clear, and true. The world of science was changed forever by the insights he shared. The Principia was not an easy book to read. It was written in Latin and filled with complex mathematics that could challenge even the brightest minds. But the ideas presented in it were clear and powerful, opening new doors to understanding the universe. Isaac Newton described 3 laws of motion that explained how all objects move. 1. The first law. An object stays still or keeps moving in a straight line unless something pushes or pulls it. This law highlights the concept of inertia. 2. The second law. This law describes how force, mass, and movement are connected, explaining that the acceleration of an object depends on the mass of the object and the amount of force applied. 3. The third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, meaning that forces always come in pairs. These 3 laws, together with the theory of gravity, explained something extraordinary. They explained almost everything that moves in the physical world: the motion of planets, the rise and fall of ocean tides, the path of a thrown stone, and the orbit of the moon. For the first time in human history, the universe was not just a mystery, it was a system, a beautiful, ordered, mathematical system. And one man, thinking quietly in a small room, had described it. Scientists across Europe read the Principia with amazement. Many said it was the greatest achievement of the human mind. Isaac Newton had done something that seemed impossible. He had looked at the world, asked the right questions, thought deeply and patiently, and found the hidden rules that the universe follows every single day. The lesson in this moment is simple, yet important. The universe does not hide its secrets from those who are curious. It hides them from those who never stop to look. Isaac Newton always stopped to look, and that made all the difference in his discoveries. Isaac Newton was one of the greatest minds the world has ever known, but he was also a human being. And like all human beings, he was complicated. He was not always a warm or easy person to know. He had few close friends in his life. He was serious, private, and sometimes stubborn. He did not enjoy arguments, but when his ideas were challenged, he could become very defensive and protective of his work. There was a long and painful disagreement between Newton and another great mathematician named Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Both men independently developed the same ideas about calculus. Instead of celebrating this parallel discovery, they argued about who had done it first. The argument lasted for many years and caused great unhappiness for both of them, leading to a bitter rivalry that overshadowed their accomplishments. In his later life, Newton also spent a great deal of time studying alchemy, the ancient attempt to transform metals into gold, and theology, the study of religion and the nature of God. These are not the parts of his life that most history books discuss, but they remind us that even the greatest minds are searching for something more than just facts and formulas. Newton was also searching for meaning, for the deeper truths behind all things, including the universe itself. Perhaps this is what connected all of his work: the science, the mathematics, the theology, and the alchemy. He believed deeply and sincerely that the universe had been designed with perfect intelligence, and he wanted to understand that intelligence, one question at a time. In his later years, Isaac Newton left Cambridge and moved to London, where he became an important public figure. He was made the master of the Royal Mint, the place where England's coins were created. In this significant role, he worked hard to fight against counterfeit money, ensuring that the currency maintained its value and trustworthiness. He also became the president of the Royal Society, one of the most respected scientific organizations in the world. He held this prestigious position for an impressive 24 years, helping to promote scientific inquiry and discovery. In 1705, Queen Anne honored him with the title of Sir Isaac Newton, officially recognizing him as one of the greatest men in England. But even in these public years, Isaac remained, at heart, the same quiet, thoughtful man he had always been. He continued to read, write, and think until the very end of his life, devoted to his work and the pursuit of knowledge. Isaac Newton never married and had no children. His life was dedicated entirely to his work, and his work was his gift to the world. He died in 1727 at the age of 84. He passed away peacefully in his sleep, leaving behind a legacy that would last for centuries. When the people of England heard the news of his passing, they mourned deeply, recognizing the profound impact he had made on science and human understanding. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, the most honored burial place in England. People came from all walks of life to pay their respects to a man who had changed how every human being understood the world they lived in. His work did not end with his life. It continued to influence every science textbook, every telescope, every satellite launched into space, and every calculation made by engineers and astronomers across the centuries. His quiet questions and thoughtful discoveries are still echoing today. Isaac Newton once wrote a famous sentence in a letter that reflects his humility. "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." This is a beautiful and humble statement, showing his recognition of the great thinkers who came before him. He understood that his discoveries were built on the work of others, such as Galileo, Kepler, and Descartes, and on all the thinkers who contributed to the body of knowledge before him. He did not see himself as the beginning of knowledge. Instead, he viewed himself as part of a long and continuing journey of discovery. The most important lesson from the life of Isaac Newton is that knowledge is a journey, discovery is a journey, learning is a journey, and every journey begins with one small, quiet, courageous act: the decision to pay attention, to look at the world around you and ask, why? Isaac Newton looked at an apple falling from a tree and asked, why? That one simple question led him to understand gravity, motion, light, and the hidden structure of the entire universe. His curiosity and willingness to explore the unknown paved the way for future generations of scientists and thinkers. You are on your own journey right now, just like Isaac Newton was on his. Every time you listen to a story in English, every time you hear a new word and feel it begin to make sense, you are standing on the shoulders of giants too. You are building something slowly, quietly, and beautifully. Your journey of learning is valuable, and it contributes to your understanding of the world around you. So, keep going, keep listening, keep learning. This is Listen Easy English, and this is a place made for you. If today's story about Isaac Newton moved you or taught you something new, please leave a comment below. Tell us which moment stayed with you and resonated with you the most. If you want to continue this journey, our next story is already waiting for you. Thank you for being here with us today. Take good care of yourself, and we will see you in the next story.